Hello, everybody. It's Jay Delvecchio, owner and CEO of WITS. I am excited today to bring to you three very, very, very good people that experts in the field that are part of our panelists to kind of dive into some of the top 4 or 5 questions we've laid out here. Because if you're an employer or if you're a trainer, there's a lot of minimally qualified personal trainers coming your way and or situations like that. Even minimally qualified some employers, right, that have just been bumped up because they're the best salespeople in the world and can really close deals and do a good job with trainers. But training and building out from there is a whole different concept in managing, right, and owning as well. So we're thrilled to have everybody that has attended today, and of course everybody will get a recording of it afterwards the next day, because you may want to refer back to some things and talk to your team or refresh your own mind on some areas and try to build out on it. So, and going forward here, I wanted to touch base and let you tag in, team. We'll start with Tom Purcell, who's got an incredibly deep background. Tom, why don't you share with everybody what you've got to share today?
Oh, thanks, Jay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me today. I in the fitness industry for over 25 years, uh, primarily as a personal trainer, but I've been a business owner for 2 different businesses. And I'm all currently a wellness director at a community center here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. One of the reasons why I got into fitness in the first place was I wanted to take care of my own health after college. I gained a lot of weight, kind of out of shape, and I said, you know what, I got to do something. We're looking at the late 90s, 1990s. Personal training really wasn't mainstream yet. It was starting to begin into the gyms of the Bally's and the Holiday Health Spas and the Gold's gyms, but it really wasn't mainstream like we see it today. And I got curious after I watched several trainers in my gym at the time training folks and see what it took to be a trainer. And that's really where I started with myself, was not only with my own personal wellness, but then having the luxury and the benefit of helping others. And that's really where I'm at today. And I still have that same feeling of going out each and every day and having that sense of purpose to go out and help someone. And of course, that's evolved over the years with the personal training side, the business side of ownership, the director side that I am currently in now, plus owner on the side of another gym. So, it's just a wonderful life to live for me. I've been able to help a lot of people continue to do so, and it still motivates me. So that's really what keeps me going. And I love to share that. Love to share my experiences with others, whether it's trainers or just a everyday person on the street. And I like trading shop with some great experts like yourself, Jay, and the others that we have on this board, because they all have something to offer and it's something that I can learn as well. So that's just in a nutshell a little bit about me and why I'm in this position today.
Yeah, yeah, no, thanks, Tom. That's a good way to round it out and give us a good perspective of you, because I think that's the biggest thing in this is everybody needs to. And today, that's what it's all about, guys. I have unmuted everybody, so it's about colleagues, employers, trainers, the group of that we have in here that are looking to better themselves. I have unmuted everybody so they can tag in. Yeah, you can write me on the question panel, but it'll take a little tougher to get that back to you all the time in a timely fashion. I like to have it, bam, right there. He said this, she said that. I have something to add, and guess what? That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it interactive, and then we all grow in real time. So next, I'd like to introduce Ashley. She is freezing in New York, and Ashley, please share your background and definitely share your program design club.
Thank you, Jay. It is a pleasure to be with everyone today. Business is one of my favorite topics. As much as I love our industry, I also really love business. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities that are available to us in the industry because not many people come into our industry with a business background, that you have the opportunity to be able to really capitalize on that and monetize. So I am currently the certification director for WITS. So I oversee everything with our testing, compliance, accreditation through NCCA, and I also oversee our council. So if anyone is interested in the Certification Council, I'd be happy to speak more about that. It is made up of WITS alumni, and they are involved in every step, the direction of that the organization takes. They are involved in that. So all alumni are eligible to become members of the Certification Council. In addition to that, what I do now on the training side of things, I do biomechanical analysis for professional athletes and corrective exercise programming based on those results. But I also have a long background in management and ownership. So I think that with our panel, we're going to be able to answer all of the questions that we have today.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh wait,
Thanks,
Jay,
Ashley.
I'm sorry, I didn't mention the Program Design Club.
Oh,
So with programming, I specialize in science-based design. I really like everything to be measurable from the input to the output. So this year we started the Program Design Club. We just finished the first year of it, where we had a group meet live once a month, and we did science-based design from the ground up and finished with very complex programming where we're able to apply all of the rules. And now we're ready to move into year 2, where we're going to have specialized topics, things like assessments, how to do science-based programming with limited or no equipment, etc., things like that. So I'm very excited for that to continue.
yeah, no, that has been a tremendous year of information and sharing amongst colleagues like we're trying to do right now. And certainly, if anybody would like to see one of those episodes, certainly let me know. My email will be at the end of it, and you can let me know, and we'll send you one. I think you'll get a kick out of it to see what it's like, because in 2025 we're doing a deep dive and going in even further with that into some specialized areas. So, and the last but certainly not least on this list, Kelly from Indiana.
Hi, yeah, from Indiana right now. So, yeah, I'm a military brat, so I usually say I'm from the United States of America. So, my career started in graduating from Ball State University with a degree in exercise science back in 1983. And at the time, there was no exercise science degree as a Bachelor of Science, only as a master's. And funny, I was studying physical education and I said, you know, one day I just said, I don't care if I ever teach somebody how to serve a volleyball or do a back handspring, but that physical fitness, a way of life class, that really got my
Yeah.
attention. So my career evolved out of, right out of Ball State, going into directorship at YMCA's, large YMCA's, running lots of programs. And I was thrust into that whole group exercise specialist doing exercise testing on every single member that would join. Later in my career, I went into country clubs, which put me into an even more discerning customer base where large staff, large facilities, people that had a lot of money and had lots of time to spend money. And so personal training was a really big ticket item, and I had a very large staff, and that was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of stress. My last assignment was in Central Florida. I was the wellness director for an entire sheriff's office, where I was asked to reduce the healthcare costs in the agency. So that really took on a whole different dynamic. I do have to say, one of the influences of my being hired was my exercise science background. They did not want a nurse. They wanted somebody that actually had fitness experience, which I championed the sheriff that hired me for that very reason, because the industry changed across my career. I watched many wellness director jobs go to nurses, and it's a sore spot for me, but I do know why why that happened, and I look for it to change back. So right now I'm semi-retired. I'm teaching for WITS, which I love, going back into the teaching modality. And I am an author about a book about mindfulness, because I realize that if I can't change your mind, I really don't have a lot of influence over the muscles or the food choices. So that's where I
Yeah,
am.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a beautiful career, and you're just really getting warmed up, Kelly. Remember that. That's good stuff. Thank you. let's go right into it. Does anybody have any initial questions for our panelists? Any thoughts? And if not, we'll go right into it. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, little history and agenda here is what we're doing. We're gonna go over. Tom's gonna lead this part of it for the beginnings of the personal trainer in ancient Greece around athletic events like Olympic Games. Began in 776 BC. I don't think a lot of us really think about that concept of it. It seems like it's a new phase for us since probably what, the late 70s, early 80s, and that's really not the case. It's been around. It hasn't necessarily been as highlighted and qualified the way it should be, even to this day in many aspects. What do you think, Tom? You have some stuff? You had the background on that from another
Yeah,
specialty. Yeah.
yeah, I find it fascinating, Jay, about the evolution of the personal trainer. Like you said, it goes all the way back to the ancient games, at the very beginnings of what personal training was and what it meant in athletics and so forth. But I was able to witness, being a 60s, born in the 1960s, and then seeing the 70s and then the 80s, and after I graduated high school, how just the gyms have evolved over the years. I mean, we went from just your, free weight, heavy duty bodybuilder type gyms to your jazzercise clubs to the aerobic craze of the 80s, Richard Simmons and all that stuff. But how it just merged to individual specific type training and the personal training in the lay person. In the 70s and 80s, we looked at it as the rich and famous. Just one of our panels just said she worked at a country club and very affluent people could afford it. But what about the average folk that just wanted to get in basic shape, lose weight, and have some type of goals? And I was able to see that at the very beginning in the 90s, basically, where I saw it go mainstream, and as these glamorous gyms became about in front of us. And that's where we really, I think, as an organization, has thrived in trying to get really good certification schools such as WITS out there, that we can have qualified trainers that, as owners and directors, that we feel comfortable that can obviously lead the programs and keep our members safe at the same time. So this is where we are today, really. We're looking at a wide range of training, which not all training is the same, and the certification is not the same. So it makes it really difficult for the wellness director and the owner to decide, okay, who is going to be the trainer, who's going to be on my staff when you're in the interview process. Before, it was kind of, we would just hire somebody and then they would learn on the go. But now, with so many certifications out there, we have to dig deeper into the interview to really find out whether this person qualified or not, even though they might have a certification. And that's again, that's where we have to, as the gym experts, to get the word out to the public about what is a good certification versus what is not so good certification. And
Yeah.
so that's where we are today when it comes into the personal training and what is going to be a qualified trainer versus not.
Yeah. No, that's dead on, Tom, and that's the certification. I always like to refer to it as the Wild West of certifications,
Mm.
because the quality aspects, the content, the curriculum, and of course our biggest pet peeve, the practical skill execution of knowing how to apply that knowledge that you would expect from an EMT or somebody else in a health occupation, right? Or they don't get that piece of paper. It's pretty diverse, and certainly something we as an industry can do better. But we're not here to really belabor on that as much as say that the practical skills part of it is the only thing. We're the only ones that do it versus the online stuff. So we have a piece in it, and as professionals, I'm glad you joined us today so we can build out on that a little bit more and show you how we can have some proactive solutions, some things that our panel has laid out, and some ideas I think that each one of them who have not really spent time reviewing in session. We want their gut professional reaction on all these areas because they're pros. They've seen things that not all of us have seen, and they can certainly offer insights that can make us all so much better at what we do in caring for our clients. So starting off with, I always have seen that, the employer set the theme of the business, but the trainers build out the revenue streams within that business. We all have our special areas, right, that we like to focus on, but how do we really approach it in those other areas that aren't our strengths? Do we just get by with the minimum of doing our certification credential and stay within our own comfort zone, or do we start to expand out into other things like Parkinson's and cardio aspects of different things, or rehab aspects of different things that we don't really know a lot about? And you not necessarily will be pigeon-toeing everything in that area, but you definitely want to know enough to be helpful. And more importantly, the way I always like to say it, to take that information and say, you know what, I don't have enough background in that information, but Kelly does. And I'm going to have you work with Kelly going forward. We'll set up an introductory thing. We'll spend some time together. I think in these areas, she can help you more than I can. That's a professional relationship. That's a professional safety net that you should have. And I'm sure she'll have people that you specialize in different areas and will, wiggle them back your way as you work together, whether you're in the same offices or not, same clubs or not. So in looking at this here, we have, how do you specialize or create a niche to set you apart in a club or community? And how do you market those unique skills? We all have unique skills. We're not good in everything, at least not yet. Some of us that have been in the business 30, 40 years have got a good foothold on it for sure if they've expanded their horizons, but others don't. And employers definitely don't. They have their areas of specialty, and how much do they branch out? And that's what this is about, thinking through it, setting up some insights for how I'm going to take on the new year of 2025 with ways to make my organization better, me better, and of course, ultimately, our clients. Kelly, what do you think about this particular question here, and any insights you can share?
Oh, absolutely. I love this. So, through across my career, I, of course, seen, a lower end customer, or shall we say, the family dynamics, and then, of course, the high end country club. And I found that working the trainer into a mindset of, everything doesn't have to be one on one. There's another way to strategize a price point by making it a small group or a buddy training. Could you bring in a buddy? And that spreads the price point across, 2 to 4 to 5 to 6 people, depending on, what kind of space and how much equipment you have. There's a couple other business models out there that are doing this. Orange Theory training, for instance, they have 15 of everything. They take 15 people on the hour, and everybody gets their own set of equipment, and everybody goes to the same workout, but you pick the tool, you pick the weight, but you've got one coach across all those people. And that allows for a price point for a lot more people, and the dynamics for that trainer to expand their abilities to cue and sequence exercises so that a large group can follow them. So, and then utilizing, different spaces, as long as it's accommodating to the facility, to go from the spin room, right, to use some bicycles, to go over to the strength training room and make a little circuit. So there's lots of ways to program a space given a creative mindset. And of course, I'm just saying that ended up being one of my special skills. So that raises you up more and more into a manager position. But to get a personal trainer to think more on the lines of a group exercise leader, it's not really hard. The exercises are the same. It's, can you utilize space and more tools to accommodate more people? That's really all it is. And good cueing always helps.
Yeah, yeah. Ashley, what do you think on that area?
Yeah, I love everything that Kelly said. I think in addition to that, one of my biggest takeaways for today, I want to be about these specialty certifications, that it's not just about possessing those skills, it is about the perception of that to the general public. So a lot of people, when we say we're certified personal trainers, that doesn't mean much to them, or it's kind of blurry. But if, for example, you are a medical fitness specialist, that means something, right? That connects with them right away, and it can make a direct connection to their needs and the things that they value. But I think also having those specialty certifications. So if you're on the employee side, then it's earning those certifications. If you're on the employer side, it's maybe setting up a model that will incentivize your staff to earn those. Maybe it's cost sharing, where there could even be contingencies on your part that they were going to have to fulfill after earning it. But for everyone that has those, it opens up these new opportunities. So I think one of the things that really shaped my view on this was from the first big gym that I worked in, just general population, general floor training, was right next door to a hospital that did bariatric surgery. So there was an agreement in place that the MDs on staff there would refer all of their clients to this gym, only to this gym right next door. And they had to complete the training in order to be eligible for the surgery. So you would work with these people before the surgery, then they would have the surgery. And once they got released after, they were also contractually obligated to fulfill these training requirements. So then they were back. So this was, it's kind of like thinking about opportunities like this that can be created in all of the different niche avenues. If you're the owner or management, that we can have a pipeline of new clients coming in that is not dependent on them walking into the gym and signing up for a general membership. We're going to get into the revenue stuff later, but the greatest thing about those kind of situations is that a lot of times it can be covered by the insurance. So we don't even need to, I think any way that we can remove the selling aspect and get right to the sale, it's going to give us a much greater conversion rate.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent way to tie it into the business aspects of it. That I don't think everybody always thinks about. They say, oh, I'm a personal trainer. That's great, but knowing the variations of qualifications for a personal trainer, a lot of clients are aware of the variation too, because they've had 4, 5, 10 trainers in their lives, and some of them have been absolutely horrible, and some have been pretty darn good. But knowing those specialty certifications of some sort or tagged in, they realize that you can relate to that medical condition more so than somebody who is not and has not expanded their horizons to these other areas, these other business areas, not to mention just safety for the client. So, Tom, anything to share on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I really like how Ashley wrote that down as far as in the business aspect of it. When we have those trainers, one of the things I've done in the last several years is not just to have certain certifications that I look for in a trainer and also education, but I also put them through the orientation of a trainer as they go through the interview process, so I make sure that they get the quality within the facility. Back in the past, when we had a certification, I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to compare one to the other, but you felt comfortable that they at least had the knowledge. But that's only a small fraction of, do they have some practical experience on the floor? Not general experience, because they might be a brand new trainer and they might not be seasoned like some of us that have had that experience, but to actually have them out on the floor that they're able to take a lay person and then train them accordingly. Now, obviously, there are going to be certain situations where they're going to need a specialty, and we might recommend somebody else or another trainer that has that specialty background. And any great trainer would do that. Anybody that cares about their client and their member. So, as an owner, I personally have to go through and get a little bit more detailed with that employer or the new employee that I'm getting ready to hire, the applicant basically. So it just takes a little bit more in the interview process, but long term, it's more of a benefit for the business. And so they're going to represent you. So that's how you have to look at it when you hire these trainers, is that yeah, it's a huge revenue stream for you above and beyond just the membership. So you want to make sure that you're slow to hire, basically, is what I'm looking at here, and not be so quick to fill a role. So just take your time when you do so.
That's good, Tom. Yeah, let me ask you this. Do you, and this is open to anybody on the panel, do you in a situation like that, knowing that, you know, certain club locations are more in a senior populated area, so they tend to get more seniors. Some are more near a college town, for instance, like Kelly, you're near one there in Indiana. Um, do you obviously tend to try to bring more people of that those qualifiers into them since they're going to relate better? And if so, when those others do come in, because you're always going to have a mix of ages anyway and backgrounds, do you then pair them up accordingly, or is it do you have a game plan for that, or is it just next man up as they walk in the door? Because I know some places go pretty willy-nilly on how they approach that kind of stuff and getting their people ready.
Well, for me personally, if I don't mind, the chairman is, yeah, I want to hire, first of all, I want to find out why the trainer wants to interview for this job. And I want to see where their mindset is too, because it has to be a fit for both of us. First of all, we're looking for qualified trainers, but we also want people that want to be here and they understand the atmosphere and the potential clients that are going to be faced. So if they're uncomfortable working with seniors, and I work at or I have a senior facility primarily, then that fit's not going to work. And it's kind of like putting a square around in a square hole, like I say it. So you want to find out from them where is their comfort level, and it might be that they work fine with the general amount of folks as far as different levels, but there might be where I just don't feel comfortable about seniors, I don't feel comfortable about kids or athletics or whatever.
Yeah,
We really have to find out from that trainer, where do they see themselves? Where do they see themselves growing, and how can I help them grow? And I'm here to help them. It's not just about them bringing in money for my business. It's also, I want to make sure that they thrive and they're successful. And that's really what I want to see where they are in their mindset.
good. Okay, no, thank you. And I'll put you semi on the spot there as far as because this has always been a thing that I see that some of the amazing facilities do, and most, unfortunately, don't usually tag in on it. Do you have some kind of repayment policy for continuing education or taking other certifications to help them grow in that area? Does the facilities that you work with have the budget? Do they relate any of that into it to obviously create that not just for them to be better and for your business to be better, but also for the concept that they feel a loyalty towards staying there instead of hip hopping around to other facilities on a regular basis as to who may offer them $2 more an hour.
Are you, is that asking me?
Yeah, yeah, Tom.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Um, well, in the state of Virginia, first of all, it's a work to right state. And unless you're a W 2 employee, we will offer some compensation for continuing education, also certification, research for your CPR, which you need to have every 2 years. So we do that for employees in a W-2 setting
good.
because they are our
Good.
employee. However, if they're 1099, which I have a large bulk of trainers that can train anywhere, they can freelance anywhere. We don't offer that because
Yeah,
basically they're not loyal to us as far as having to work to us full time. If they end up being full time, yes, but if they're 1099, that would be a no.
yeah.
Again, they
That
can
makes
go
sense.
anywhere, anytime. So,
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. But it's good you guys have the foresight for taking care of the W-2s. So,
right.
well, good. All right. Well, unless anybody has anything else on this topic real quick, I'll jump over to the next one, which kind of is very much relating as to customer service. What is it to you, and how do you apply it over the years to yourselves personally, or of course when you were or Tom are still managing people accordingly? Anybody want to jump in on this one?
Sure, I will. I want to go back to what Tom said earlier. I think it all starts with, a good training program as they come in as a new employer, new employee orientation, right? What is the expectation of the facility? What's your expectation as a manager, supervisor? And the vibe of the club or the organization. What does it stand for? kind of segueing back to the last, subject area to this one, a lot of those trainers that come in have an expectation of training, an athlete, for instance. And so offering at new employee orientation, saying, at a country club, typically that's a senior population or somebody that at least has discretionary time and discretionary income, and therefore helping them understand that it's a solid job, they'll be a good customer there if that's acceptable to you to work with someone in that space. We might have a professional football player come through, but I can assure you they have another trainer somewhere else, probably going to be hit or miss to come by and see you. But the customer service aspect for me is truly about using someone's name, regularly, knowing things about that client that develop a little bit of a personal relationship, remembering the aspects about that client that might be significant, whether it's a holiday time that they take, or certain injuries or personal challenges that they have. And that, one of the things that I really drove home with my WITS trainer is that they need to be writing down the information about these clients. They need to document their the program that they're on, in case somebody ever gets hurt or injured, or you're out, that maybe another trainer can step in and take that client without a bump in the road, if they're willing to. But I really think
Yeah.
a big thing about cleanliness of a facility, equipment being in good repair. The trainer always has their first eye on that, and communication with their customer and their club.
No, that's one of the things you said there kind of hit the iron for me, which was obviously document, document, document. Because yeah, if you're out sick for a week or two with a flu or something, and somebody's going to pick them up because you don't want to see them get dropped and wander off and not keep going where they're going, especially if you have them in a good positive way with success. Yeah, is to be able to know that this is what I call a dumbbell raise. If you're using a pet peeve little term that some places do, from trainer to trainer, they kind of make up their own stuff as to verbiage. And I go to fill in for you, and the next thing I know, I don't see it on your paperwork at all as to what you do and how what I call it. So the next thing you know, they're confused and they're frustrated. There's anxiety there, and it's not that they're doing a bad job, it's they just don't even, the two trainers don't have enough documented to follow up on details of what we're calling this exercise or this stretch, because I made it very cutesy and wonderful with
Right.
this name.
Thank you, Jay. I mean, even when I was driving home for their practical exam, I said, first thing you got to do is you got to call out the name of this exercise. I said, if you ever pass somebody a basketball and say, here, show me how to dribble this, most people know what dribbling is. But
Yeah.
to walk into a gymnasium, and most people are very intimidated by the equipment, they don't realize that there's many ways to do that exercise and many different tools, but to help them learn the vocabulary, it's huge for me.
Yeah. 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 What muscle group they're really working versus just going on the name. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Ashley, anything on that? I know
Yeah, I
you have
think
a
building
passion.
out from there, I don't think it'll surprise anyone that I like everything to be standardized, not just the tests, not just the programming, but the execution of the business too. So I think it all starts to tie in here, because when we're doing the hiring process, we know that even with the best employees, we're always going to have a high turnover rate. So there is that kind of question of, like Tom was saying, you need to put in your best with each person for them to become the best for your facility. But at the same time, you also know that there's a high chance that that person is going to be gone before long. So one of the things that I started doing is automating a lot of that process. So not in place of the one-on-one, but where you have like a flow chart for onboarding where I make these videos and say, here are the points that I focus on during sales. Here is the process, and then step by step. And then that can direct them to documents too, that they're going to have like basically a handbook and flow chart of how you would want the company to operate ideally. The only place we need to be careful with that, of course, is if they are 1099 employees, that we're not going too far, treating them like an employee. But I have found that to be really helpful, and it also weeds some people out, because we've all been fooled that, you know, during the interview, it seems like somebody is an ideal candidate. And then before long, we find out that it was all talk. So if we have the interview and then they sign paperwork, we open up access to all of this stuff and ask them to watch it, study it, review it, make a list of questions before we meet on X, then the expectation is that that's going to be done by the time that you meet, no excuses. But I
Yeah.
think the other thing that I always do is just communicate very clearly to every person that the expectation in terms of customer service is that each person, no matter how much or how little they're paying, should be treated in that moment like they are the only client in the entire business. They get all of our attention, they get all of our appreciation, all of our focus. And there's no tiering to that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's an excellent statement and philosophy and concept that needs to be number one. Because there's a varying in there all the time. Oh, I'm just doing a free workout for this guy. So I'm not really getting anything out of it because he's not going to take on the package from what I've heard. And instead of, this is my opportunity to really show this person I can help him, and just really tackle it accordingly. So, but it leads right in, it's just perfect. It leads into this next part here, as far as our discussion area 3 is, how many times, you know, what is your strongest feature to share with a client? Connecting a service with a client. And of course, what is your weakest feature? How many of us do a self-evaluation and or a client exit survey? I talk to people all the time that never do a client exit survey as to why they lost them, and kind of figure out maybe a pattern as to where they're coming up short and not reaching that person on a mental, because it's not all physical, as we all know. It's about motivational and imagery and all that kind of stuff that helps them get into a safe place where they're improving themselves, um, you know, mentally and physically, right? So any thoughts on this? Anybody want to jump in on this?
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about, even with that last section, was, you know, the difference between, you know, when somebody decides to become a personal trainer, they're usually coming into it from the mindset of, you know, physical fitness, health and wellness. And there's no aspect about that that's about sales, none of it. So when hiring someone, as Ashley mentioned, you know, I think a strong part of the training, onboarding with your business is knowing the strategies for sales, because it will make or break, certainly landing a client or just having somebody that, yeah, gets strung along. But not everybody has the same price point, and that's where I'll go back to, you know, when first we're talking about creating something that maybe is in someone else's budget. So that creativity to strive to find something that will work for the client and the facility and the customer. And do you have that creativity? And not everybody does. So, you know, you could call that a strength and a weakness depending on who's in the tribe, to facilitate those things or have that kind of space. But I think that that's a weak feature for the personal training industry, is that I went into it for the science. My first couple jobs, there was nothing about it that had to do with sales. I had to do a lot of testing, um, you know, a lot of facility orientations, you know, get somebody written on a program, and then it was all you. So personal training came later. Group exercise was a bigger component at that time, but then when personal training came along, yeah, every time it was a different facility, it became more and more about sales. And, you know, at that time I was already in management. So I was hooking up the trainer with somebody who could sell.
Yeah.
It wasn't always me. So it's important to train them. So Ashley, I'd love to hear more about what you've got to say on that business aspect.
Thanks. It's going to tie back into your idea on the multiple kind of price points. Um, I think I just got lucky right from the beginning that, like everybody else, like almost all of us had no background in sales, and then you're suddenly in this position and you're expected from the top down to do well. You want to do well yourself, but you don't quite know how to do it. I think that it just was my natural approach to sell the benefits, not the features, right? Because they don't care. They don't care about, I mean, to a certain extent, they want to know that we're qualified, but outside of that, that's completely different than speaking to how we're going to impact their life, like, and painting this picture of like these two kind of paths. One, if they get on board with us, what direction is it going to, and never forgetting what those top goals are, so that everything we're doing, especially if it's something hard for them, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, link it back to the goal, right? So I really like to do that, but then I feel like when you can hook people with that, then you're in the place where they're going to be honest about the finances, right? A lot of people are going to say, I don't have the money for this, but that's where Kelly's idea comes in, that we can say, okay, if that's not an option, then we can have like option number two, but we're not going to start with, do you want to do small group training? But do you have a friend that you can bring in? Let them do the legwork, right? Do you have a friend that you can bring in and we can train together? And then kind of scale it from there, so that we're offering options for everyone, but that we also feel confident that they want this. That a lot of people, if they are not interested, they're just going to hide behind, I don't have enough money. But that's not the real reason that they're not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. Both of you are spot on. The thing of being a trainer for all the years that I've been involved is, first of all, selling wellness and selling fitness is an easy sell, at least for me. You know why? Because I believe it. I believe in being healthy. I believe that everyone should take care of that great asset of theirs, and that's their body. So the sell itself is an easy sell when you believe it yourself, right? You're not selling vacuum cleaners. You're not working on a hot tin roof. You're selling wellness. You're also, as a trainer, you're selling your knowledge. You're selling this platform of knowledge to help that person, and you sincerely want to help them. But you're absolutely correct. You're going to get so many people that say, I can't afford it or I can't do this. As a trainer, there is ways around that, such as the Buddy Up program, where you share the session with a friend, which is great because you have two friends working out. They hold it themselves accountable. Plus, they split the cost 50%. We all can do small group, where maybe three people or four people, something like that. You still get paid the same amount as a trainer, but it's less pricey for the individual. But then you also can look at it this way. Maybe you can't train with me 2 or 3 times a week. How about once a week? We'll do a new workout every week. I'm going to hold you accountable as you come back. So as a trainer, I try to set my staff up to say there's more than one way to sell your sessions. But the bottom line is you have to show the sincerity yourself. If they see that and believe that in yourself, you're going to get your sessions. You're going to, but they have to see that. But first of all, as a trainer, you have to believe it. And if you don't believe it and you're all about the money, you're not going to last very long. So, I mean, you really have to sell yourself to be able to sell this wellness for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's excellent, team. That was really a nice breakdown across the spectrum there. And because everywhere we teach this course and we talk to different people. I know Kelly, you just got done a course out there at university, but the dirty word is, I just hope they're not going to have me sell. I don't want to sell. I just want to train people. Wow, they're interrelated, and yeah, it's the way it works. And you're selling the best thing in the world. It's not a vacuum cleaner. It's not a roof. It's about them feeling better about themselves mentally, physically, and it's an easy platform to go for. So it's not a dirty word. You're not a car salesman. Not that I'm disparaging any car salesman out there. So let's go on to the next fun thing here. How do we create partnerships with professionals that magnify our trainers in related fields, i.e., referrals with MDs? My biggest thing is registered dietitians. Boy, they know nothing about our field, and it's a good way to go back and forth and feed each other throughout your careers. But what do you guys think about that? Do you have any suggestions, any areas that you've done yourselves?
Well, I spend a lot of time networking. And even at this time in my life, I want to know who the players are in my field, if for no other reason than as a referral. And I think people appreciate that. You know, when you want to know somebody and champion them for what they know, I like to say, look, I don't want to be you, but I like to know you, because if I need to have an expertise, I just come to you. And that makes everybody feel good. But I've been partnering with professionals since my first job out of college, you know, asking the local registered dietitian to come in and talk about, you know, body fat. And we offer everybody, you know, a skin fold test at the same time. That was really hip back then. Now, today, I'm not doing those kind of things. But I am, for instance, you know, we just had that doctor of physical therapy in the WITS training here in South Bend, and to be able to have that conversation about, you know, the clients he holds, and to say, wow, you know, when the doctor's order expires, where are you going to go? Well, what a beautiful bridge for him to just carry the client forward and be able to have his own personal training business after, you know, the client's or the patient is discharged. uh,
Yeah.
I really like collaborations, and they may not happen on the regular, but when you have your own facility like Tom, you know, you should have them as a regular part of the program, asking a different person to come in. I did it in my country clubs just because people want to hear about those topics and expand their mind. And you become a leader in the area by bringing those people in. You know, none of us know everything. And
Yeah.
so I always feel like if I surround myself with great people, it makes me look better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit it all there. You checked all the boxes. That's a beautiful rundown. Thank you. Anybody else before I move on?
Yeah, I really like this one. I think there are so many opportunities that exist here, in particular with the healthcare continuum, because all of those professionals, like what they have just a few minutes to meet with patients, right? But what is their recommendation almost all of the time? To get involved in a fitness program. So if we could help bridge that gap, if we could have that direct connection to us, it's good for the patients, it's good for us, it's good for the doctors, it's, you know, it's good for everyone all around. So I think just figuring out how to structure these that they could be mutually beneficial. So like Jay said, the registered dietitians, and they are perfect because they cannot legally do what we do, and we cannot legally do what they do. So having that flow where it's going to be bi-directional, I think is a really good thing long term. The other thing that I really like is this insurance model that it surprised me how easy it is to submit paperwork to have the clients be refunded by their insurance, and the cap that's available. And I think because not a lot of people are taking advantage of that, there is a lot of money that goes unspent that was available and could have been directed to us because we didn't learn those simple steps to do that. The last thing I wanted to mention is about public health education. So this is like what Kelly was saying. I've done a lot of speaking at these special interest groups, and I think what's great about them is that you can get so many clients out of that because these are people that are already prone to action. They don't have to go through, anybody who's into the stages of change model, right? Like when we have these new clients come in, what is the probability that they're still going to be a regular client 6 months from now? But the people that are in these groups, like support groups and things like this, they are already, they're looking for support, they're active, trying to solve problems in their lives, and it's just a natural fit, I think, for it to carry over with us.
Yeah. No, great point. Yeah.
You're right. They may already be looking for a trainer. They just don't know anybody, and there you show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Our last one here. How do you change your business dynamic from getting by to being the place to work? As employers and or personal trainers that oversee a fitness department, there's things to consider here. And again, I'm a big one right now on the self-evaluation of it. What am I doing? Where am I coming up short? Where are my goals? And trying to piece them together, build that, put that bridge in there again. What do you guys think on this aspect of it?
Well, as a business owner, one of the things I try to complete with my staff is they're of value. And anybody that
Hmm.
wants to come work for me, I want to feel like they hold value for not only the business but for myself. That when you're here, that you are being productive, but also you're a huge asset to us. And I want them to sincerely believe that. I've always had an open door policy as a director and owner. Is that the day that you're not happy here, I need to know about it. I want you to feel excited to come to work, that you're excited with working side by side with your coworkers and having the mutual respect we have for each other. But it's a job that you not only have a passion about, but you enjoy the atmosphere around you. When you can create that atmosphere, you have a strong team, and that team will look out for each other. It's a family, it's what you're building. But the number one thing is it's not necessarily how much you get paid. It's going to be, do they have value? Do they have value, and do you identify that? If you can do that, you're going to have a team, and you're going to have less turnover with the trainers. Again, trainers want to make money, and I understand that, but people want to feel like they have value, and I really think that's a huge base to start when you try to grow your business.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect analogy on it there, Tom. I know there's different businesses out there that live by it. I think not, pay aside one way or the other, places like conceptually like the Y. I mean, they bring people in there and they work for them sometimes for decades, just because they like that whole environment, and that they are made to feel worthwhile in a lot of those types of places. The Y is just an example I'm giving, but every Y association is different. They're like little mini franchises anyway. But depending on the group you're with, it makes a difference. Absolutely.
Mm.
Anybody else have anything to share on that part of it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to leadership there. Um, Segueing to what you just said, because I worked in several YMCA's early in my career, and that not every leader is the best leader. I think open communication. I know when I got to the country club level, I did not there was no sales involved for me as far as compensation. So I was always selling for the trainer. And that took me out of the equation of competition. I was not a threat to them on the sales floor. I was selling for everybody, and that can really change a dynamic. And when you are a director or owner and you're also training, that becomes like, you want to train with Body Beautiful. I want to train with the director. That's competition for everybody else. So I think that that's very influential on the dynamics for everyone involved.
Yeah, yeah. No, great point. I can just say from the standpoint of getting by and being the place to work, I would poke everybody right here in the brain to think about the concept of that how many of us are doing the same thing year after year and wondering about your turnover and not really reflecting on, again, I talked about earlier about exit surveys, discussions with those people that are not combative, but more like in gathering info as to how you can be a better leader, or a fitness director who has people coming and going. Obviously, money's a part of it, but also just in building a better formula of things for your facility, whether it's additional training, whether it's hiring certain trainers in certain groups that come in with a professional stature, and they gravitate to that versus of the 200 certifications that maybe just drift left and right. And some of the ones that come in, just reading their resume, that's not going to help you out, although it'll fill a hole in that mass puzzle you have of trying to put staff on the floor. Doing the same thing, expecting a different result. 2025, you should start thinking about those concepts and making yourself and/or your staffing approach more common sense of what's going to work for you. So it makes your job easier, and it makes your your members, your clients thrilled to death as to being in there, and there's that positive energy floating all over the facility. You know it when it's happening, when you have top trainers in there. You know it when you have top staff. You can feel it, you can see it. It becomes a real fun community in there. So time to poke it a little up here and think about how you're going to change that and how you're going to move forward.
Can I add one thing, Jay?
You can add two things, Ashley.
All right, well, thank you. Yeah, so I think along those same lines, what I was thinking about is minimizing the obstacles for our staff. So figure out what are the things that make them unhappy, and go back ourselves. Most of us started on the gym floor. So think about why we got off of the gym floor, right? I think a lot of it is, even if you're good at sales, the thing that just drove me crazy was the last minute cancellations, that you can't do your financial forecasting. And then there is the whole, do you have a cancellation policy? But you know that's going to harm the relationship with the client if they think, you know, that they were warranted in not being there. So I think anything that we can do to support them to have more predictable, dependable income is also good for us if you're on the ownership or the management side. So I really gravitated a lot towards, when I was working with older adults, doing it on site in the older adult communities, which can still be part of your facility. It could just be an off-site visit. They have a budget. Anywhere that has an annual budget is going to have funding so that you can be set for the entire year. Same thing with all of the colleges. Everywhere that I have taught outside of the WITS program, it is part of a budgeted cycle. So it really makes that dependable. And say that they're still going to have to do a little bit of the, you know, there's no way around it on the floor. But if we have a different way to supplement that for them, it's good for everyone.
Yes, yes. No, thank you. That was a great way to end this session with that kind of stuff. And again, I want to thank Kelly, Ashley, Tom. You guys brought it. Doesn't surprise me at all. I was thrilled when I was able to get a confirmation out of all you, because you all have the conversations I've had are so insightful, so informative, and I'm sure our attendees appreciate it. Does anybody from our attendees have any final questions or needs that we can help you with before we sign off and head towards those happy holidays? Any questions, thoughts? No? Okay. Well, everybody has stayed with us, so they're on there grabbing it all. They're very focused, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and team Kelly, Tom, Ashley, thank you so much for this, because this is some great stuff you brought to us, and I wish everybody a fun night as well. We're gonna start right now, fun night tonight, and then just rock it for the rest of it. Okay. All right. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please network.
Thank you very much. Bye.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. We love it too.